JBN, we keep you informed. One-legged man shot dead on North Street. An elderly man said to be an amputee was shot and killed by unknown assailants in a brazen daylight attack on North Street in downtown Kingston on Wednesday morning. Police report that about 8:30 a.m., the man was sitting on a sidewalk along the roadway when gunmen alighted from a motor vehicle and shot him multiple times. The man, who has one leg, was reportedly shot more than 10 times and died on the spot. The police are investigating. St. Andrew woman's disappearance in May, only reported to police in November. 35-year-old Kelia Johnson of Kintyre Road, St. Andrew, has reportedly been missing since May 2019. She's of dark complexion, slim build, and is about 160 centimeters or 5 feet 3 inches tall. Reports from the Papine police saw that Johnson was last seen at home sometime in May of this year. Her mode of dress at the time she went missing is unknown. All efforts to locate her since then have been unsuccessful. She was only reported missing in November. Anyone knowing the whereabouts of Kelia Johnson is being asked to contact the Papine police at 876-927-2047. the police 119 emergency number or the nearest police station. Kingston man charged following shooting. Detectives assigned to the Kingston Central Police Division arrested and charged a man on Monday in relation to a shooting incident on Sarah Street in Kingston. Charged with illegal possession of a gun and ammunition and shooting with intent is 23-year-old Jevon Atoms of National Heroes Park, Kingston 4. The police report that about 11:15 a.m. on Wednesday, October 30, Atoms reportedly shot a man with whom he had an altercation. The police were alerted, and the injured man was taken to the hospital and was admitted for treatment. Following the shooting, an investigation was launched, and Atoms was arrested and placed before an identification parade where he was pointed out by the complainant. A court date is to be set. Assistant teacher freed in double murder trial. Former assistant teacher Sanjay Dekali, murder accused in the 2011 massacre of 18-year-old Joyce Lynch and her mother Charmaine Rattray in Lauriston, St. Catherine, is a free man. Dekali was taken into custody about a month after the incident, has been on trial since last week. Yesterday morning, Supreme Court Judge Justice Vivian Harris instructed the 7-member jury to return a verdict of not guilty on both counts of murder in respect of Dekali. This follows on a no-case submission on behalf of Dekali by his attorney Anthony Williams on Monday, moments after the prosecution led by Director of Public Prosecutions Paul Llewellyn made his closing arguments in the matter. Williams contended that the prosecution had failed to produce evidence to show that there was a plan, aiding and abetting and participation on the part of Dekali in relation to the crime. The prosecution for its part had maintained that there is more than adequate factual basis in respect of evidence, which would obligate the court to call upon Mr. Dekali to present his defense, arguing that there is no need for the court to withdraw the case. Yesterday morning, Justice Harris, in handing down the judgment, said in examining the arguments relating to Dekali's participation in the incident, there was no evidence presented by the prosecution that Mr. Dekali knew a murder was taking place in that house prior, and that there is no evidence it was a part of the plan to murder the woman before he went into the house. It is my view, having considered the authorities in the area and the evidence of the prosecution, that there is absolutely no evidence that he planned with the individuals to commit the murders, Justice Harris said. Yesterday morning, Dekali, standing at the behest of the judge in the docks, replied, "Thank you, Your Honor," a slight smile playing around his lips when told by the judge of her decision. "You are acquitted on both counts of the indictment and discharged and free to go," Justice Harris told Dekali, following the utterances by the foreman of the jury. "Thank you, Your Honor," the now broadly smiling Dekali said, leaving the dock, where his cousin Kemar Riley sat without a backward look or a word. Rattray and her daughter were on the night of July 19 fatally hacked to death, shot, then beheaded by a group of about 8 men, 5 of whom were later arrested and charged in relation to the brutal murders. 3 of the men, Adrian Campbell, Roshane Goldston, and Fabian Smith, have since pleaded guilty to non-capital murder and are to be sentenced, while 2, DeCauley and Riley, pleaded not guilty to murder and were standing trial. DeCauley, in a caution statement played into the records of the court last week, claimed he was returning from a function in the dead of night, heard Lynch screaming for help, and went to investigate. In the videotaped account, which was shown to the court, he said upon going into the house and entering Lynch's room, he saw 2 men, one of whom, Russian Goldson, was pleaded guilty and was charged with non-capital murder, busy chopping Crystal. I said, "What's going on?" Him couldn't answer because he was busy chopping Crystal. So I was standing next to him, and while he was chopping him, swing the cutlass and it chopped me on my hand. Same time I run outside and I jump over the back fence and run around the lane and up on Raya Kobe Drive, the caller stated. He said it was while running away from the scene that he heard 5 to 6 shots fired. McLean touts sanctions for CMU contract breaches. Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Grace McLean, has admitted to breaches in implementation contracts amounting to $218 million carried out by the Caribbean Maritime University, CMU, to build and expand classrooms at 9 schools across the country. She told the Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, PAAC, on Tuesday that administrative action would be taken against persons for the violations. McLean told the committee that the ministry was also taking steps to get retroactive approval from the municipal corporations for the projects which have now been completed. She said that 8 structural engineer reports have been submitted to the municipalities for the projects. They have advised us to make sure that the buildings do not pose a danger to the children, McLean added. Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis had reported in her July 2019 procurement and management audit that the Education Ministry bypassed the due diligence of the Procurement Committee and further breached procurement guidelines by not obtaining approval from the National Contracts Commission for 7 of 9 contracts based on values. The CMU approached the Education Ministry with a design and a build concept using containers between 2016 and 2017. The ministry gave CMU the green light to execute the projects. The permanent secretary told the committee that the CMU used students from the institution on the projects in order to give them hands-on training. However, in a flagrant disregard for the government's approval process, the ministry and the CMU did not submit applications to the municipal corporations for approval of the projects. The Health Ministry, the Jamaica Fire Brigade, and the National Environment and Planning Agency were also sidelined in the implementation of the school projects. Committee members queried who should be held responsible for the non-submission of applications to the approval bodies. The accounting officer, who is the permanent secretary, has ultimate responsibility to ensure that all administrative procedures were followed, McLean said. Dean Roy Bernard, who was at the Education Ministry in 2016-2017 as permanent secretary, said on Tuesday that the procurement committee at the ministry, comprising the Director of Technical Services, principal finance officers, and the senior officers, would have been involved in the due diligence and recommendation of the contracts to the permanent secretary. You will find in the ministry a document signed by about 5 persons where all the channels would have come through and a recommendation would have been made to the PS, permanent secretary. It is not for the PS to go behind the recommendations of the expert, except where there are blatant matters that jump at him, he said. Bernard disagreed with the Auditor General's finding that the Procurement Committee was sidelined in the projects. Manchester Municipal Corporation fraud trial continues. Elliott's net worth estimated at $255 million. A financial forensic expert from the Financial Investigations Division, FID, revealed yesterday that in his capacity as a lead investigator in the multi-million-dollar Manchester Municipal Corporation fraud trial, he calculated the net worth of one of the accused to be $255 million. Tasked with the responsibility of investigating the financial status of 5 of the accused, Desmond Robinson revealed that former Deputy Superintendent of Roads and Works at the corporation, Sanjay Elliott, had assets in his name and those of immediate relatives, including his parents. Robinson said that at their acquisition cost, all of these assets, in addition to 6 motor vehicles, were estimated at $255 million. He said there was liability of $7 million from 2 outstanding loans as at 2016. The financial forensic examiner further revealed that from January 2008 to Elliott's arrest in 2016, he found legitimate income of less than $15 million. The prosecution applied to have a report admitted into evidence, but there were several objections, as the defense maintained that the document was not what it was purported to be. They also complained that there was no signature appended and that it had not been properly served on the defense. Presiding Judge Anne-Marie Granger suggested that the prosecution and defense combed through the report to ascertain what parts were not properly disclosed and should be redacted. At the start of the matter, Granger admitted into evidence a number of documents, including sale agreements and the checks that formed a part of the examiner's investigation. The prosecutor said they were seeking to determine whether Elliott's purchases were made with legitimate funds. Robinson is expected to return to the witness stand today to complete his testimony as the matter continues in the porous court. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.